Hello everybody, this is Mr. Corzine. I want to give you a quick lesson on the Pythagorean Theorem. These are the notes that we went over in class. In case you were gone or you want a refresher, I'll go over these. You can get a copy from me in class. Just come and see Mr. Corzine. I'll give you another one of these papers if you need one, and I can help you get caught up on the Pythagorean Theorem. So moving on to the next slide here. The Pythagorean Theorem is talking about the relationship between all of the lengths of the sides of a right triangle. You can tell it's a right triangle because one of the corners has this little right triangle symbol there. The relationship between all three of the sides is this. Side C, if you square it, is going to be equal to side A squared plus side B squared. Just some real quick information on some labels for these. The two sides that are connected to the right angle, you see here, those are called the legs. Usually we say the shorter leg is leg A and the longer leg is leg B. And it's kind of weird to talk about legs, one leg being longer than the other or shorter than the other. So I don't know how you feel about that, but this is leg B. It looks like my pen is wanting to be a little funny. Okay, finally, if these two are the legs, then this one should be what, the arm or the, I don't know, the head or the, I don't know, the hip. It's not. It's called the hypotenuse. Don't ask me why. That's just what it's called. Some people will call it the slanty part. That's not a great term, but it's the longest side of your right triangle. Now we can do a quick example here. You write an equation to find the length of the missing side of the right triangle. Then find the missing length. Round to the nearest tenth if necessary. Well, I think it's pretty obvious. We're going to use the Pythagorean theorem here. We're going to use c squared is equal to a squared plus b squared. In order to complete this equation and solve for the missing side, we do have to label this correctly. I'm going to change colors here. The short leg, the side that's connected to the right angle, leg A. The longer leg is leg B, and then they already have the hypotenuse labeled as C. I should then be able to take my numbers and plug them in. I don't know what C squared is, but I do know that I'm going to take 12 and plug it in for A. I got to square that. I'm going to add that with 16 squared here. You see how we took our numbers from the picture, from the diagram, and plug them into our equation. Well, now we just want to square those numbers. I think a lot of people probably know that 12 squared is 144. I think most people don't know that 16 squared is going to be 256. Excuse me, there we go. 256. My pen, I'm blaming it on the pen. It's not me. My handwriting's great. So c squared is equal to 144 plus 256. When we find the sum of those two numbers, it works out really nice. The sum is 400. 400, there we go. But 400, whoa, is equal to c squared. Now, if I go up here and label this 400, that doesn't look right. Not at all. In fact, there's still another step that needs to happen. That step is we're going to have to find the square root. As in, we have to undo the fact that right now our number has been squared, and we need to undo the squaring. Now, I'm going to try and erase this. There we go. It's working out much better now. Here's my pen. See if I can get it back to work. C squared is equal to 400. I don't want c squared. I just want c. Well, how do I get c? That's the part that sometimes hangs people up. How do I go from c squared to c? Well, c squared, the way that I undo squaring that number is by finding the square root. I use this radical sign there. But if I find the square root on one side of my equation, I always have to do the same thing. I have to be fair and do it on the other side. Well, finding the square root of a squared number just kind of cancels out the fact that it's squared. So we're left with c over here. Then I have to ask myself, what number times itself makes 400? That should be 20. So now, if I go up to the top here, I don't have 400. I know that c is actually equal to 20 inches. I hope this makes sense. What we did here is we had two of the legs on our right triangle, and we found the missing hypotenuse. If we go on to our next example, the next example is supposed to show us where it's possible to find the length of a missing leg. So we'll just jump right in. We'll label each side A, B, and C. And we'll write our equation. C squared is equal to A squared plus B squared. Now, I hope that this is starting to catch on. A lot of people, after they've done a couple of problems, they say, oh, well, that's actually that makes sense. It seems kind of simple in a lot of ways, but it's also satisfying. You seem to be able to find an answer that fits. I'm going to plug in my numbers. This time, c squared is one of the numbers we can plug in. So I got 8 squared here. A gets replaced with a 3. I square that. And then I have b squared. If I eventually want to get b by itself, I have to get rid of the 3 squared. So it's actually going to be 64 is equal to 9 plus b. And I want to subtract 9 on both sides. If I do that, I forgot b's got to be squared here. If I do that, then this cancels out, and now I have 55 is equal to b squared. Well, I'm good with that. I think everybody's going to agree with me that 55 is going to equal b squared. It's just some people might be a little uncomfortable now as they try and find the square root. B is going to be equal to the square root of 55. Now I've got my handy dandy calculator here, and when I plug in that I want to find the square root of 55, it gives me a rather long number. I get 7.41619.8, it goes on and on and on. Fortunately, we have some instructions. It says round to the nearest 10th. If I round to the nearest 10th, just a quick review, that means I need to cut the number off after the 10th place. That doesn't mean I just, chop the number off and get rid of it. I have to look at the number behind it and say, is this number behind it, the number 1, is it 5 or above? If it is, I give it a shove and I round that number up because that number should actually be closer to 7.5. However, this is a 1. This number, if I round to the nearest 10th, is actually closer to 7.4. So B is approximately going to be 7.4 miles. Now, this is just a short version of the lesson, just a real quick to get you started. If you still have questions after this, you can come and see me. But I thought maybe just doing a couple of examples with you guys would get the ball rolling, and you could probably finish up the examples on your own. Again, if not, please come and see me, and we'll work on them together. Thanks, guys.